Shut up! I hate you.
I need to expose myself a little, and if you watch the previous video, the first video, you will understand the reason for this. But for you to fully understand this first exposure, I need to quickly explain the structure of this series, and this includes, from now on, the first thing you need to understand, which is different from learning, and it is called consciousness. In our free member area, after watching the video from the link in our profile, I will break down this concept in much more detail, because there will be the most complete videos, the sequel videos. In fact, this new series that I am starting now here, I will call spin-offs, precisely because you will need to understand the stories or actions that triggered certain reactions. Since the normal videos here on YouTube will be prequel videos. In other words, things you need to understand before you can be conscious of the deeper things. Those will be in the sequel videos available in our free member area. So what does consciousness or being conscious mean? This story will explain. My father used to be a band musician, and he also owned a music club where well-known bands would come to perform there. And here, the first consequence occurred with my relationships with women, where I used women by using my father, precisely because he was famous in that region. In other words, as the son of a musician and the son of the owner of the music club, I used this situation to my advantage to hit on women, or rather teenagers, because I was one too. I was only 15 years old. I remember one day of 3 situations with some girls. But look how interesting this is. I did these things, but I only became truly aware of my actions many years later, already living as an adult. In other words, I didn't fully understand that doing what I did was wrong, precisely because I wasn't conscious that it could negatively affect not only me, but also the girls I was with. In a simple phrase, even knowing I didn't know. For example, there is a popular saying that goes, "Tell me who you walk with, and I'll tell you who you are." And many people think that this phrase is biblical, but it's not true. In other words, we will only have real consciousness when we actually open the Bible to understand it. Because until now, we just learned that the phrase was biblical, but in reality, that's a lie. To put it another way, there are things we think we know, but in fact, we don't know them yet. We still don't have consciousness of the real truth, and that's the cause of everything. Precisely because consciousness is a premise for experiencing something real. And without consciousness, we will live things without knowing why we are living them. And in the end, if we have the chance, we will discover that we lived something that wasn't true. In my case, since I didn't grow up with my father, deep down, in my subconsciousness, I wanted to be accepted and loved, and I was trying to achieve that, but in the wrong way, precisely because I wasn't aware of the consequences that my behaviors could create, both for my emotional state and theirs. And here comes the important part, which you may have read millions of times in the Bible, but never had a true consciousness of the real meaning. Maybe because you used just a simple interpretation, directed only within a specific situation. In Acts 17:30, the Bible itself states that God does not take into account the time of ignorance, and here comes the wisdom of a healthy father, not a tyrant God. When we are just religious, we will never have the capacity to use the lens of love. We will only see through the lens of the law, just as the followers of Jesus absorbed knowledge in a much less profound way than the disciples did, because ignorance is exactly the lack of consciousness. It's not about information or interpretation, but about a deeper understanding. It's as I said earlier, Learning is different from understanding because it is only through understanding something that we will be able to be conscious of that same something. Now, with consciousness, we need emotional healing, and there are deeper things that only God the Father can provide us, for real and without religiosity, and we will understand and access Him in our free online community. But here is my first exposition, where I'm showing cause and effect so that you can be a little less cruel to yourself, because maybe today you just aren't fully conscious yet. To understand better, watch the next video by clicking on the first link in the description.